So let's have a look at the main incident, the biggest talking point from the race itself. Now, to put this into perspective, Red Bull and Mercedes have been clashing off the track all weekend, building up to Albon and Hamilton coming together on the track. So we had the protest for the DAS system, which the stewards ruled in Mercedes' favour on, clearing them of illegality, as it was deemed to be part of the steering mechanism rather than suspension, which would have made it illegal. So as it's a function of the steering, they were free to use it. Now, Red Bull will probably go ahead and try and put a version of it on their car, but whether they can get it to work will be another matter altogether. Saturday, Bottas takes the pole. Hamilton, though, sets his fastest lap, which is 0.012 off of Bottas's time under yellow. When Bottas goes off and causes a yellow flag, the stewards initially said there was no foul because there was a yellow flag given and then a green flag, or a yellow light, sorry, for Bottas going off, and then a green flag at Marshall's post pretty much immediately after. So there was conflicting messages. So they ruled in Hamilton's favour there, and now this came up, and then he came unstuck. Now Hamilton has an option, had the option this weekend to have choice on going out first or second in qualifying for the Mercedes pair. So knowing that a tow would be important, he opted to go behind Bottas. Bottas then makes the mistake, causes a yellow flag. Hamilton goes through without lifting and sets his time. When the 360-degree camera footage was processed, which was released Sunday morning on Formula One's Instagram feed, Red Bull spotted that Hamilton hadn't lifted while going through a yellow flag or a yellow light zone, took it to the stewards as new evidence, and I wouldn't say got Hamilton the penalty, but they just brought it to their attention, and the stewards reversed the decision. So Hamilton ends up fifth on the grid, and on a bit of a fight back. Now, there's nothing to say that if Hamilton had started second, that the rest of the race would have turned out any differently, because by the point most of the chaos had started, he was back up to second anyway. So that could all just be circumstantial. But then it feeds into this bigger picture after the race, where Hamilton and Albon come together on the outside of turn 4. So we've had the second safety car, and Albon dives in for the soft tyre off of the hard tyre. The two Mercedes were caught out. The safety car was called just after they went past the pit entry, so they couldn't get in. Albon was about 10 to 12 seconds behind, and he was able to make the stop. Comes out behind Perez, and at the second restart from the safety car period, he manages to get past Perez at turn 3, just as the third safety car is called for Raikkonen being stopped on the track after his wheel went walkabouts. Once they sorted all that out, because Perez initially took the place back, Albon was then allowed to move back ahead. He attacks Hamilton as they go into turn 3. Can't get the move done. Hamilton defends it well, but with the DRS down into turn 4, Hamilton covers the inside. Albon goes to the left, to the outside, and goes around the outside. It's bold, it's brave, but it is high risk. He shows fabulous skill, great skill to maneuver his car to the outside of the Mercedes, where it looks like he's got the move done. And I was looking at it, you get the long shot on the TV feed, and it looks like they're side by side. But if you look on the onboard, as we've all seen, especially on Hamilton's, Albon is just, he's about an eighth of a car length ahead, maybe a touch more. And they come together, they bang right rear to left front, and round goes Albon. Now, Hamilton gets a 5-second penalty for this, but was it just a racing incident? A lot of people are saying that it is, but they can also see why the penalty's been given. I can see why the penalty's been given, but this is my This is my reasoning for it. Should have been a racing incident. I think the stewards were a touch too harsh on this. They have the driver steward there. It was Tonio Liuzzi, the ex-Force India and Toro Rosso driver. Now, Albon was ahead, but that doesn't mean that Hamilton just has to back out of it and let him go. If you watch the onboard of Hamilton as he comes into turn 4, he makes his turn at the turning point, and because it's a downhill corner, so the camber it drops away. How many times do you see cars going in there and locking the right front because even on their own, they just drift a little bit wide. Now Hamilton doesn't lock his brakes and he doesn't unwind the steering. He keeps that steering wheel in a constant position from when he turns the car and he holds it there. He holds a line. Whether he's turned it enough is a different question. But I think, he's entitled to fight for his position. And no, he didn't open the steering up until after the contact. That was when he straightened his car up and went for it. Now, you might say, well, he's just put himself on a line that would force Albon out of road. But if he'd done that, the contact would have been much further left on the track than it was. Now, Albon has done a brilliant move and is entitled to a car's width on the outside, but that understeer is always going to push Hamilton slightly across as it drops down and it falls away. It's just going to just slide a little bit left. He didn't really understeer that much. It's just a corner that naturally induces understeer in the car. Some corners you can get the front in, but the rear will snap on you at certain corners. Now, you've got to also look at the drivers involved. Yeah, they had that coming together in Brazil, and Hamilton was definitely at fault for that one. But by that point, the championship was over for him, so he was more inclined to just, if the door was open, right, I'm going to have a go and see what happens. He took full blame for that. Perhaps Albon should have waited for a better opportunity, but he had the soft tyres and he wanted to get the move done. So you got to credit his spirit and his determination to go and get the job done as quick as possible. And not only that, it was a great attempt at a pass. And had he pulled it off, it would have been arguably already pass of the season. To put something like that on a 6-time world champion who's in the fastest car, it says something about Albon. And the fact that he even got so close to doing it tells you plenty about him. But Hamilton doesn't have a track record of tipping people off the track. You can look at other drivers. So Verstappen has tidied himself up in recent years, but when he was younger, he was diving down the inside of people. He was crashing into things. The incident with Vettel in China in 2018. And he also had not an incident with Hamilton, but he rushed a pass on Hamilton, went off the track, lost a place to Ricciardo, and essentially lost a win that day. So it's not like Hamilton to be tipping people off the side of the road when they try and pass him. Far from it. He's one of the cleanest racers that you can come across. There are other drivers that we're going to speak about later that do have this reputation, rightly or wrongly, for being accident prone. That's just the way they are. The stewards obviously decided it was worth 5 seconds, and it did end up costing Hamilton a podium. The caveat to this is that Albon retired a few laps from home with a power unit problem, so whether he got past Hamilton or not, he may not finish the race. But Hamilton obviously wasn't to know that.